Welcome back to Power Talks with Santosh Shah. We are in conversation with Charles Haviland and Thomas Kelly. Charles, can you tell us about one of your most memorable moments in Nepal?
Well, there have been many memorable moments. I suppose the culmination of Jana Andolan and watching that, if you like, relinquishment speech by former King Gyanendra on TV was a remarkable moment. But in terms of locations, the whole country is beautiful, but I suppose the high Himalayas are the summit, not to make a pun of it. I did a story up at the Cho Rolpa Glacial Lake at the top of the Rolwaling Valley, which was a place I'd wanted to go anyway. Looking at the global warming issue, there was an intense human dimension to that as well. The mountains just are a gift to a television journalist like me. And also last April when we went up to Everest Base Camp to look at the controversy over the Chinese Olympic torch, and were more or less thrown out of base camp by a ministry from the Nepal tourism official because he said we weren't allowed to talk to any reporters. That was astonishing, but we managed to go live on TV just around the corner from base camp, and a nice backdrop and a memorable trip.
Thomas, you have covered a wide range of subjects over the last 3 decades, from the beautiful landscapes of the mountains, the issues of trafficking and sex trade in South Asia. Can you recall some of your best moments in Nepal?
There's been so many. I kind of celebrate every moment that I'm here. Early on, running with Trans-Himalayan traders over passes in the Humla area, and just feeling that freedom through exercise, through walking, through being apart with a team of people, and being able to document that. The issues that you mentioned with trafficking was kind of a result of my time in Humla when you're dealing with migrant labor. So that was a pivotal moment for me to look more seriously into that. But I remember one particular situation where I rode back from the border from Mumbai on the train for 36 hours and then got to the border and then rode with 28 young Nepalese ladies to Kathmandu, and they had to go through a horrible battery of tests and not just very unpleasant experiences. So there are rewarding moments. Yeah.
Charles, what has been one most difficult situation in Nepal while reporting? I remember last year your vehicle in Tarai was almost torched or broken during the Madhesh Andolan.
I think that was actually one of the most difficult moments. We were in the highway. We were somewhere west of Lahan in Siraha district. It was actually 2 years ago. It was the start of the first Madhesh Andolan, but time flies, doesn't it? Anyway, we were trying to get west for our next interviews, and the highway was blocked. I think it was at Mirchaya. And the crowd that gathered around us wasn't the sort of benevolent crowd that you normally get in this country. It was a very hostile crowd. And we were sort of talking our way through, and there were some leaders who were trying to get us through, and then we had just heard this loud smash, and I think it was our back windscreen that was shattered, that was nasty, because you're taught when you go on so-called hostile environment courses, how to cope with a hostile crowd like that, how to get out of it, and it was quite an exercise in diplomacy to get out of it. But that was an alarming moment.
Thomas, have you encountered any similar situation in Nepal?
I think that when I was asked by the New York Times to go and cover the Debbie Sunwar story up in Pokhari Chowri, that was difficult because there was no advance warning sent. It was just basically being able to go into that area with a certain level of confidence with another reporter, at that time David Rhodes from the New York Times. I wasn't welcomed, right, as a Anglo white-faced Bidesi into this area. And so even though I was motivated to be able to tell a story that I felt needed to be told, I had to go through lots of hoops and interrogations. I think similar, it all took place during the Maoist time period.
That article and photographs you did at that time was actually on the New York Times in a huge coverage. So that was a big success.
Yeah, it was. I actually didn't know that it was going to receive front cover. So yes, that was a bit of a twist.
Charles, during the last 2 years, we have seen more journalists killed in Nepal. Recently, Uma Singh was killed brutally. And how safe do you feel as a journalist?
Yeah, that was a horrendous murder. And then we had Jagat Joshi, we had Birendra Sar, we have had the disappearance, I think, of Prakash Thakuri and others since, the so-called end of the conflict. Yeah, the war is over, but violence continues, and I think for journalists it's been worse. And we mustn't forget that, just the other day, 3 people murdered in Janakpur. Not much fuss was made about that in the press for some reason, but it happened. I, as a foreign journalist, feel absolutely no threat at all. I think this is a bizarre country in a way, but of course journalists, particularly in the south, come under this pressure, from different factions inside saying, report what we do, or don't report these misdemeanors by us. And that's partly because there is, unfortunately, still a certain bias in certain sections of the media. It's very distressing. It's not something that affects people like me, as I say, but I think in places like Janakpur, Siraha, Saptari, maybe sometimes in places like Kapilvastu in the west, life is very, very difficult indeed.
We'll continue this conversation after a short break. Do stay with us.